Now today in the shop we worked on Joe's Ducati fairing and pretty much tried to take advantage of a day. It was cold and the only real problem we had all during the day was the wind was really blowing. But what had happened is the paint had dried overnight in the garage, and when I did a really close color match, I could see it needed a third coat of red. Now we're pretty much using up all the paint Joe had, so I wanted to really be careful with this. And I knew the best way to do this. I'll explain this on the video in detail. I knew the answer was to put a third coat of red on, and I just decided to bite the bullet, color sand the whole part out with 1000 grit. And this was really a time-consuming, laborious part of the job that I didn't realize it was going to take this long until I started doing it. But when I was done, of course, like everything, you realize it was worth it. And these parts, because they're collector parts, you can't buy them anymore, to not have them done to as good of a quality standard as I can, I probably wouldn't sleep that well at night. I just always would rather pay the price in the shop and then for the rest of all eternity look at something that I'm proud of. So without further ado, I got outside. I had to move the table. There was no way you could paint where I was because I have to be able to walk around the whole part when I'm doing this. And I suffered with it yesterday, moving the part around. It just wasn't worth it. So I did share a lot of good information. There's some good information on this video about color sanding and about using 1000 grit paper. And I think some of the things, the information about thinner, would benefit everybody. And no matter what level of painter you are, it's good information. Now today what I'm doing, I'm looking at the damage on this part of the fairing because I have to make a decision. I have to make a decision today based on the weather. As soon as I get the local famous weather that's usually wrong, because snow is predicted the last couple days, but we had great weather, and tomorrow is supposed to be big snow. You believe it? I don't know. I don't even know what to say. But this is going to be a separate job that I wanted to do. We're waiting for Joe's clear to come. He's already ordered it. But in the meantime, I have to figure out how I want to use this day, and I want to see how my parts have dried up outside. What I want to do first thing is get my parts in and get them under a heating vent, and that'll make this a lot easier. But now that I've been using the red paint, and I want to talk about the paint for a minute when we get the parts in here. There's a lot of little repairs on this, and I want to describe how I think would be the best way to do them. But the first thing is to get everything in from outside. So as I'm listening to the church bells here, this is a part that I painted as a test on a can. I wanted to do this, and I'll explain why I did this. This is a critical thing when you're using a new type of paint. Talk about that later on in the video, but first I want to get those parts in. Because you can see, this morning, it's still a winter wonderland out here. Now it's pretty subjective, but I think that dried up pretty well. I really did, and I want to explain. I was thinking about this overnight, what I think is the reason for this drying so smooth. I think it's in the thinner. But again, I was thinking about that last night. I think I have an answer for that. But it did dry up fine, of course. The wheel absolutely is jewelry, and I can't wait to finish that and get that installed. But maybe what I'll do is I'll do both of them and then swap the both parts out at the same time. We'll see how that plays out according to the weather. As I look at all my custom wheels, well, it's just one of the things I have enjoyed in the course of owning motorcycles, having these custom wheels. And in this cold weather, I make sure I get the battery chargers flipped around every day, and that just hopefully the snow will melt in about another 4 months and we'll be riding again. Well, it's supposed to warm up, but it's not warm now. Now it may not be as good as I think it's as it is, because the wind is already blowing, but to get a little look at our wheel, I'll be glad to get this downstairs and have some coffee. These lithium ion batteries, they charge up real quick in about a minute, minute and a half, but 2 minutes sometimes, but I like to at least once a day top them all off and keep them. In my mind, it's making me think that we're going to go riding this afternoon, but it's probably better just to keep them topped off every day. And Unfortunately, it looks like a nice sunny day, but the wind is already blowing. Okay, we got everything inside now, in-house. Now we can start a day's work on this, what looks like a nice day, but a windy day. So here's how the parts have dried up. And I thought I'd share this information. Of course, this is very shiny and has clear on it. This does not have clear, and it's kind of dull. Now, but when I sprayed it, it was shiny, and it gave me some concern. And then I realized, oh, it's not really me. It's the fact that this thinner is probably a slow drying thinner, high penetrating, slow drying. And let me explain what that is. For somebody might have stumbled upon this and they're confused. Well, this is good information I've learned the hard way over many years. Now, since the day we did Mark Morgan's restoration, he had bought another brand of paint we had never used before, and he did not buy the thinners. And so we tried to use our thinner with his paint, and even though they were from the same family, they made a problem. They never dried, and we had alligatoring, we had all kind of issues. So what I did is, before I did any painting, I painted this can. And then when I had the clear in a can, I put the clear on top of it just to make sure that our clear, now it doesn't mean the clear Joe is getting, but I know my clear, this is 5-star, my clear and the paint that Joe got are compatible. We will not have a problem with that, hopefully. So because we haven't used Color-Right thinner in the past, I've used the paint but not the thinner. What I realized yesterday is this is a slow drying, high penetrating thinner, which is great. This would work great in hot weather conditions. They don't tell you here, I don't see anything on here that says it's fast, slow, medium. Well, you know, and there's no, well, this is what it tells you, 1:1, yeah, well, that's the problem, and they always tell you do a little test before you use it. Well, but there's one issue that I'm always concerned with when you're using a new product. Is there going to be a compatibility issue? And so far, we're lucky. But this is, for sure, a high, it'll reduce, what happens is it makes a high gloss, shiny finish. If I use, and it penetrates, it means you get a good chemical, you get two bonds, a chemical bond and a mechanical bond. When you use the fast drying thinner, it dries a lot faster, and it tends to be a little duller. So we're going to go over it with clear anyway, so we're not concerned with the shine at all right now. I want to check, now that that's dried, I want to see what the final result is. So what I think is going to be an appropriate thing today, and I don't know if the weather is going to play out in my favor or not, because the wind was really kicking up when I was bringing these parts in, and that usually means it only gets worse. This has red on it. And what I think I'm going to do is color sand this out just a little bit with 1000 grit. Get it prepped up. I want to put one more coat of red on it. It looks like this color gets darker as you put more red on. I think it needs one more coat just to be perfect. And of course we'll know very soon. But before I would put the third coat on, I want to color sand it with some 1000 grit paper. Now that wheel is sitting under the heating vent. It's going to sit there for 24 hours before I do anything. But you can see the light reflecting off it. Even with the finish that's on there now, we have gotten, it definitely doesn't look like a casting. I mean, we started off, here's a good example. We started off with something that looked like that. And at the end of it, it looks like that. And it's a lot of work. Trust me. You got to have a passion for this, or don't even bother. We're going to use Merca 1000 grit for this, but the whole idea is just to scuff it up. I don't want to sand the red paint off. I want to make a scuffed surface, get rid of any little imperfections that still are in there, any dust that might be in there, and I want to, before the next time I get a chance to paint, which may be this afternoon, is get one more coat of red on there and then see for the final match. Now the final match I won't really know until I put the clear on, and Joe doesn't have the clear yet. But we can get this step done today if the weather cooperates. And then who cares if it snows tomorrow? It can just dry. And this is a step a lot of people would skip. Yeah, I'm not sure this is an overkill, but if we were in a rush or we were trying to, well, in some way expedite this, we could leave this step out. But I know Joe has a passion for these motorcycles like I do, and I know he'd love it to be just as perfect as we could make it, and we will do that. Now, most of it I want to do with a block. You can see it's already taken off some of the red paint. I don't want to do any more of that than I have to. If I sand through, it won't really matter because I can always just touch it up. At this point, but just to get all that dust off, it'll just make for a really, really nice job. And I just hope that wind behaves, because we got plenty of sun. That's usually in our favor, but wind is not in our favor. Now I'm just wanting to do this one part as I always do in real time, so you could get a view of just how much material we want to take off. And the biggest part I can do with the block, and then all these little things here I'm going to have to do by hand. So, but we'll get the part just roughed down. Now, as I'm starting to work this, and I'm really careful, trying not to go through, or if I do, minimize that. This will add a nice little dimension, and I'm always looking to add a nice little dimension, a little overkill dimension if we can to these parts. And again, the reason is because they're collector parts, and you just can't go out and just go somewhere and just buy them. And if you could, boy, would you pay through the nose. As anybody who has ever dealt with collector bikes knows full well. And usually it's the people that have these collector bikes that have a passion that I share with them. And as all this work typically does, it always turns into a labor of love. And it just, there's almost no exceptions to that. Just a labor of love. And of course what this does, it just knocks the high points off. And here, like there, the little bit of dust that's in there, just makes the part, and that gives a tooth that the next coat of red will get a good tooth and lay down flat. Well, let me go see what Karen's doing. She's making something that smells good. So what are we making here, my bride? What is that?
This is kielbasa and potatoes.
Kielbasa and potatoes.
And it's Rob's favorite.
What about me? What? Am I chopped liver?
You can have a taste.
I can have a taste. So I thought I'd show this. Karen, of course, being an artist, our whole house is filled with these beautiful paintings. But look what else we have that she did. We have disc brakes and sprockets for decorations. And I don't know how cool that is. But Karen, we love you, baby. I got to go back to work. Now, anybody who has a wife that's cooking while you're painting, I can smell that food. Oh, it permeates the whole house. But I got to get back to work. Now, it's not, luckily warmed up in the last hour, so I'm thinking there's a good chance we can get that coat of red on there. I'm hoping. So I'm going to be pretty aggressive about getting the rest of this sanded out before that kielbasa comes out of the oven. And of course, there's always a certain amount of it you just got to do by hand. And there's just no substitute for that old labor of love. The kielbasa of love. Oh boy, does it smell good in here. Oh man, making me hungry. Now, of course, this is in fast forward, and pretty much all color sanding is, again, keep saying it over and over, it's a labor of love. But boy, in the final product, it's the same thing I always say about building a good foundation for a house. In the end, this detail pays big dividends. Okay, so once I have this, and I think I have it pretty well sanded flat now, now I've got to get the prep wall out, wipe it all with prep wall once I dry this up, and hope that the weather is in my favor, because that weather this time of year, it's like Russian roulette with 6 bullets in the gun. Okay, so once this is dried off, we'll look for any little flaws we still want to address. And I think this will make a nice little quality touch. And what we're always looking for coming out of the shop is quality work. Okay, the last thing is to tack rag this down carefully and hope that we could deal with the wind. I'm just hoping it's not going to be as bad as it looked before. Maybe it'll get better. We only need about 10-15 minutes to spray this out. We'll be in great shape. Now, because the wind is blowing, I decided to move this table around. Now you can hear that wind noise as I'm getting ready to jig this up. I just got rid of that soundtrack off. It was making me crazy listening to wind noise. I am going to try to get a wind slayer on this camera eventually. Maybe Turbo Steve knows where I can get one for the Canon camera. Hey, and that did work pretty good when I did the test. Anyway, this coat I wanted to get on nice and even, nice and smooth. This will be the final coat. That's going to be underneath the clear, and it's going to be, I hope, a really, really good match once I get the clear on this. I assume Joe, man, he's got it already ordered. In this day and age, you never know when FedEx just shows up at your house with the stuff. No, I think that'll do it. We're going to get that into the garage before it snows out here or something terrible happens. And actually, we're really lucky the wind did not blow it away. The thing is really, it's really delicate here, so I want to get this set that there's no way any problem can happen. I think that's just about as good as this is going to get. Now the only thing, now we have the most difficult thing of all is waiting for Joe to get the clear, put the clear on, one coat of clear, one coat, and then see if that color match is okay. Now if it is, then we put the decals on. If it's not acceptable to Joe, Karen thinks it's kind of okay, I kind of think, but you really never know, you will never know until you put the clear on. That changes the color very subtly, especially in bright sun. Anyway, I'm real happy with the way this worked out today. Well, from this point on, it's all going to be about the color match, and I think we have it. But again, all of these color matches are in the eye of the beholder, that's for sure. The parts in the garage drying. We had a great day, took advantage of another day, and probably snow is coming, so I don't even know how to respond to that. Anyway, I love the way our wheel came out. Boy, oh boy, I am so happy with that. Get both of these projects. We are really on the road to success. I hope everything's going to play out well. Mostly that we're going to have some decent weather, but I do know they said 100% chance of snow tomorrow. So there's really nothing you can do. Anyway, I do want to thank the healthcare workers, guys. Thank you so much, keeping us safe. And I hope these vaccines all play out and work out and everything. That we're at the mercy of the vaccine right now. If it doesn't work or it does work or whatever, I don't know. That's why I paint instead of injecting people with vaccine. Guess you figured that out already. But I am good at what I do. But thank you guys again, and I know you're good at what you do. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you enjoy sharing some of this passion we have for restoring these old motorcycles. Or maybe you're just entertained. I don't know. But either way, it's fine. And it's free. So thanks so much for watching. So we do try to post up something every day. And I always try to end the video with some nostalgic photos or something that would make you want to go ride your motorcycle or whatever. Or not ride your motorcycle. Sometimes it's not as much fun as you think it is. Yeah, we've ridden in some cold weather, but boy, have we ridden in some really good weather. Reminds me of the day we saw the Nikon. Yeah, all of the bikes we see almost every week up at Perry's. I like to have pictures of everybody's bike in my album. You never know when you're going to need a little inspiration. Vlad, one of our good friends, and boy, he's got some beautiful, talk about collector bikes. He's got some beauties in his collection that he's worked on with passion, with extreme passion. And I congratulate him on those. And Vince, I can't say enough about Vince. I'm blown away. And all the people that have these older bikes, that keep them running, keep them polished, keep them running the way they should be. And then that isn't enough. You got to ride them. And there's Vlad. And having a collector bike that you don't ride, yeah, it's like having a pizza pie you don't eat. Or having, in my case today, some kibasi you don't eat. I just think a motorcycle, the whole purpose of a motorcycle is to ride it. Work on it if you have to, but mainly to ride it. That's the main thing of all. And I just, in my passion is, I like to have the garage full of motorcycles. Everyone different, everyone 10 years about roughly apart. That's my history of the 60 years I've been involved in motorcycling, and all the friends you meet along the way. Some of them you keep with for life, some you see for a year, some for 10 years. You never know. It's all unpredictable. And it's the unpredictability of what's going to turn you on next. Maybe you want to have a Ducati next. Maybe you want to have a Harley. Who knows? You never know. I don't even know. And some of these collector bikes Vlad had that I've worked on, I know they're treasures to the people that own them. And I can't say enough about sharing that passion, the passion for motorcycling. I certainly have it. I hope you have it too. And thanks so much for watching.